Hi there, how are you? Greetings and salutations. My name is Jake Query. That right there is Derek Schultz.
Hi.
And this is the incredibly creatively and appropriately named charitably award-winning Query and Schultz program on ISC Sports Network. And Derek, we are actually in a far less exciting, far less picturesque, and certainly far less appetizing studio than last time we were doing the show together.
Yeah, what a fun night. Just
Awesome.
A beautiful night at Lou Malnati's out on the patio with a lot of our both former and current, I guess, some of our radio people who still watch the show, and then some of the new TV people like Bill, Indy Bill, who I know has been more of a fan of the TV version, the reincarnation of Query and Schultz. It was a great time to be out there. It certainly made up for what was an awful game between the Colts and Broncos.
Game. Here's the thing, by the way, about Lou Malnati's. That location where we were in Broderpool on Ferguson, it was, as you had talked about, an absolutely perfect night outside when we were out there. It was like room temperature. And that outdoor patio with, the kids can go and play cornhole and Connect Four, and the pizza was
my kid did
unbelievable. But then in addition to that, I went inside and had a beer with Caleb once we were done. And I'm looking forward to winter because the inside of Lou Malnati's also just has like this cozy feel, where it'd be a great place to go and watch a game, have a beer, get a pizza. When it's cold and snowy outside, it's going to be cool. But I'm super thrilled to have Lou Malnati's not only on board with us, but here in Indianapolis as well. We are inside, by the way. This is the Lou Malnati's studio, but it is Bailey and Wood presenting Query and Schultz here on ISC Sports Network, so we thank Bailey and Wood as well. Derek, let's go back to what you were talking about, that Colts-Denver game. Win is a win, but it's not exactly.
Yeah, it's weird, Jake, because the Colts actually sit today, we're taping this on Monday, in a very advantageous position. They're only technically a game out of the division, a game behind in the win column, and of course the head-to-head tiebreaker with Tennessee, who they'll have the return game against here coming up in about a week and a half. And 2-2-1 in the grand scheme of things isn't the worst place to be. I mean, you look at where Cincinnati is, you look at where the Rams are. There are teams that are off to very disappointing starts, but through these 5 games, and 5 games is a healthy sample size. I mean, we're talking about a third of the season. The Colts have just not played good football. There's just no other way around it. You can say, well, winning ugly and finding a way. Yeah, they're having to do that every week, though, and that's a big problem. And it's just not sustainable to have the offense and the offensive line play the way that they've had through the first 5 games to keep doing this week after week.
Listen, the one thing that was interesting to me about that game with Denver, Derek, is that the Colts are in a really bad spot in terms of the quarterback spot because Matt Ryan is clearly showing age. And what's the answer? I mean, they're going to have to draft a quarterback eventually here. Yeah. But I'll tell you what, Denver's in a worse spot because Russell Wilson is done. I mean, maybe I'll be proven wrong, but Russell Wilson to me, I think I said it to you on this show. I said Russell Wilson feels to me like a guy that had really good pieces built around what he can do in Seattle, and I didn't think he was a plug-and-play guy. And, he's a wonderful talent. He's had a great career. But, I mean, he clearly has Malcolm Butler PTSD, right? Mm-hmm. Because when that game was on the line and he has that wide-open play, they needed, a yard. And he's got, is he afraid to throw the ball at the goal line?
Yeah, maybe.
On a 4th and goal or 3rd and goal or 2nd and goal? I mean,
the more egregious mistake, Jake, was throwing that interception because I know, Rake knows, Vince knows, Jordan knows, everybody watching this knows. There was a 0% chance that the Colts were going to drive down the field and score a game-winning touchdown. 0. There was no chance at all that the Colts were going to do that.
Could have been a 1%.
A field goal there is the knockout blow. That's all you have to do. Just take the 3 points. Right. Don't make the mistake. And he didn't do that, and it gave Colts new life. But again,
and he also threw that pass. I'm like, where was he going?
This is again the problem. And the counter argument to this is people say, well, Colts can't apologize for this. They made a play. Chris Jones telling off Matt Ryan while he's laying on the ground on what was going to be a 4th and long. That Wilson pick in challenging Gilmore in the first place and being as reckless as he was. The Chiefs and Broncos begged the Colts to take those games to them. Give the Colts credit for taking them, I guess, right? They took it from them, sure. But you can't expect the opponent to do that every single week. And that's been the common theme in the 2 wins, I think, for the Colts this year is that the other team kind of begged you to take it. It was just as much about the other team's mistakes as it was about anything that you did.
Listen, credit where due. We've been critical of Chris Ballard. I in particular, have been very critical of Chris Ballard and some of his decisions, his lack of action in certain areas, the offensive line, certainly at the quarterback position at this point, receiver. But Stephon Gilmore so far, as advertised. I mean, I think there were a lot of teams that were hesitant on giving money to a guy that they thought maybe didn't have any gas left in the tank, and so far, so good. I mean, this guy's been worth the money they paid him.
Yeah, when he has stepped out and spent, Danico Autry, Stephon Gilmore, they're free agents that have come in here and done really well. So it's been kind of the opposite of the previous regime where you felt like that didn't happen a whole heck of a lot. But the reason why I'm still hesitant to throw any praise Chris Ballard's way is that they built this team around the trenches and the offensive line specifically, and that is by far the biggest flaw of what's going on with the Colts right now. There are other areas where you say Colts are maybe even ahead of where you thought they were. Look at Alec Pierce. Alec Pierce is ahead of where you thought he would have been. Even reasonable expectations for Alec Pierce. He's surpassing those so far. I think the defense without Shaquille Leonard is playing above its head, considering that he's their best player, most important player.
Has played well.
Yeah, the linebackers have been all right. I mean, the secondary has been solidified with Gilmore's presence. It looks like the pass rush is starting to come along, especially with how good the interior guys are. I mean, when Buckner and Stewart are locked in, that helps kind of everything else around them. But this team, Jake, they're just not going anywhere unless they figure out this offensive line. They're just not going to go anywhere. This is a team heading for 7 wins, 8 wins, something like that, without figuring out what's happening up front with the OL.
OL?
Yeah, offensive line.
Okay. Here's the thing. They have players on the offensive line that are familiar, but some of them have regressed. Ryan Kelly, and I hope it's not due to personal tragedy within his family life. I mean that sincerely and respectfully. I totally understand if some of the difficulties and challenges that Ryan Kelly went through in terms of his family and his wife a year ago are weighing on him. I totally understand and respect that, and I don't begrudge him for it. But in terms of strictly football speaking, Ryan Kelly has regressed, and he's not playing well. And when that happens in your center, and then everything else has to expand out of that, that's a critical piece for them. That is just Danny Pinter might have to eventually slide over there.
I like that they're at least trying. They moved Braden Smith inside. Remember, he was drafted to be a guard originally, and then played well at right tackle.
Derek, go ahead with what you're saying.
I guess, Jake, my point is my bar of expectations is so low for the Colts offensive line right now that just the fact that they're trying and they're not completely asleep at the wheel is progress to me. They tried a new combination.
I've never noticed until you just did that when you put your hand up to show the bar. Can you do that again?
Yeah, it's like barely off the ground.
But
it's like right here.
Yeah, but I've never noticed how hairy your fingers are.
Yeah, each individual finger and
it's rather disgusting.
Actually, each individual toe. I have some sort of a genetic problem where my feet have an amount of hair that should not be on a human foot. I'm not going to show you them on the air because you guys would never want to tune into the show again. But think about Elijah Wood's foot in Lord of the Rings, and that's essentially what my feet look like. Like, I don't own sandals, and there's a reason for that. Like, there are some parts of this that I like showing off, but my feet aren't one of them.
Your knuckles, I mean, it's kind of gross.
It's not that gross. I mean, it's not like it's jet black or anything. Yeah, I'm just saying.
The problem with the changes to the line that you mentioned prior to the Denver game and giving them kudos for trying something different is
it didn't work.
Well,
it was terrible.
They didn't have any practice. If you're going to make changes as seismic as altering your offensive line, wouldn't you want to maybe do like a couple reps?
I guess, yeah.
I mean,
Matt Pryor looked about as in over his head as I've ever seen an offensive lineman look. Like he was.
Well, did you see Bernard Ryman?
I felt bad for the physical safety. I was concerned for the physical safety of Matt Ryan. It's rare that I say that in an NFL game.
I thought you were going to say the physical safety of Matt Pryor.
Yeah, well, him too. I mean, but I was concerned about his physical safety. It was that bad.
It's not good if one of your biggest linemen, you're worried for their physical safety.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
That game was kind of like, it's like driving on I-65 in a car with no seatbelts going 95. Like, that's what it felt like the Colts offensive line was doing. Like, they were just asking for trouble.
You're right.
With how it happened. But I don't want to just be completely negative here, Jake. Like, that's not my goal. Like we said, they're 2-2-1. They could turn it around. They have a defense that's pretty good. Like, the Colts emerged from Denver with some positives, whereas there have been a couple of weeks, like the Jacksonville game, they didn't emerge with any positives at all. The problem is that we have enough of a sample size to know that this offense and this line, it's just not going to be good. Even if they improve dramatically, this is going to be a mediocre offense and a mediocre offensive line. That's how bad they've been. This is the NFL's worst offense. bottom line, it's
Yeah.
the NFL's
Well,
worst
I mean, it's the
offense,
worst
and it's the
scoring
NFL's
offense.
worst offensive line.
If there were positives, Alec Pierce
Mm-hmm.
starting to arrive a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Seems to be like a reliable target for Matt Ryan, and Matt Ryan seems to be looking towards that man, Alec Pierce, a little bit more. It definitely looks like that's become a safety net for Matt Ryan, aside from Michael Pittman Jr., and he's able to make plays. That final drive, Alec Pierce was a big part of that. Big part of it.
We've been asking the Colts to have a number 2 guy rise for the last couple of years,
Right.
and it just has never happened, and now it looks like it's finally happening.
Most of them just look like number 2, right?
Most of them are just by default number 2. Like,
Right.
no offense to, Dontrell Inman and Zach Pascal, but those guys became the second receivers by default.
And then Chase, is it McLaughlin or McLaughlin?
I always say McLaughlin. Is that wrong? Maybe it's McLaughlin.
Chase.
Yeah, Chase.
Chase Mack?
Yeah, Chase Mack.
Chase Mack was
C-Mac.
impressive. I mean, look, when you go out, and obviously they had familiarity with him, but nobody signed Hot Rod yet, right?
No.
Is he done?
Maybe. It's
Nowhere?
tough.
Huh?
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough business. I'm sure somebody will bring him, even if he doesn't sign anywhere this year, I'm sure somebody will bring him into camp next year if he's still interested in
Right.
kicking. Because
You
that's what
seem
happens.
callous about it.
But McLaughlin,
You
no,
seem
I'm not
almost
trying
like
to-
you're glad he's gone.
It's a business. I'm not glad he's gone. He and I had a lot of connections brand-wise. Clearly, I have more staying power, but it's a business. That's just how life goes. But McLaughlin, 48, 51, 52. That's what impressed me the most was the distance that he was hitting.
You know, the
those
one
kicks.
thing about
Even though it was Denver.
Hot Rod's kicking career and you know the one thing that's kind of linked?
What's that?
When people think of his kicking career, they often think to themselves, just a little short.
All right, let's keep going kind of on the positives here instead of going down the rabbit hole with whatever you want to do here.
Okay.
Defensively speaking, DeForest Buckner was a monster.
He was big.
The secondary,
Listen.
all 3 levels of the defense were terrific, even against a completely incompetent offense.
Again, another Chris Ballard coup here. I'll give him credit because I've been hard on Chris Ballard. I'll give him credit here. Rodney Thomas has played well.
Yeah, he has.
The safety out of Yale, the rookie that's come in, and he's played well for them.
Yeah.
So they've gotten some nice pieces and some good contribution.
I just look at this as, when Frank Reich is in the locker room saying we were great in all 3 phases. No.
Yeah.
We win however we can. We always can. We can win whatever way possible. We can't win by scoring a bunch of points because you don't score.
Do you believe in ugly wins?
I do, but Jake, if you're going to go out and do it every week, then it's not. I am interested in teams having traits that are sustainable to winning. It's sports.
Imposing their will?
It's sports because fluky things happen in sports where game to game, like the Chiefs game. What they did to Kansas City's offense was fluky. It doesn't happen every week. It doesn't happen really any week to Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, but it happened. I have to look for things that are concrete that I can take with me moving forward in evaluating this team. And so far through 5 games, if we're taking what has been given to us, there aren't a lot of things that are sustainable for winning. Like scoring 14 points a game is not good enough, even in a league where it looks like offense is down across the board.
No, you're right.
You can't be the worst offense in the league.
Now, here's the thing. What about this? And I mentioned this a couple of times since, so my apologies if I sound redundant here. But one game does not – I mean, I get it. It could be an outlier. But when you're able to go in and by committee move the ball fairly effectively on the ground.
Yeah,
they were able to throw out of the backfield. They were able to move the ball. They had good energy. I thought Jackson
effectively is relative for Thursday night's game, but yes, in the scope of Thursday night's game, sure.
But my question is, did they get enough play out of running back by committee to make them think or question how much they're going to give or should give to Jonathan Taylor when his contract comes up?
Oh, man, so we're forecasting out here. I am not in favor of giving lengthy, high-dollar extensions to running backs.
Correct.
Thursday night aside, that is not something that I am in favor of. I don't think that is
what
a
I'm
winning
saying
strategy.
Is Thursday night actually supports your theory.
Yes, you make fun of me for this word, but it's the word that I bring up. And even though Taylor is great and Henry is great, and there are sometimes exceptions to this rule, largely speaking, running back is a fungible position.
I mean, I totally agree with that. And I think we saw that. I mean, Thursday night, you might have only gotten 70% of the production you would have gotten out of Jonathan Taylor. But you did it if you're talking about second contract, you did it 30% the cost.
Yeah. And
You're
I was
ahead,
happy
right?
for Deion Jackson. Deion Jackson had a great
Played well.
preseason.
Played well.
And took advantage of his shot. Good for him. It was scary what happened with Hines.
It was.
And you hope that, I mean, that's another thing that the Colts just have not unlocked offensively this year is getting Hines involved. And now, who knows what his outlook is going to be in the short term here with whatever's going on with him health-wise. But this offense, Jake, has to get markedly better because we keep seeing that the other teams keep going like this. They keep going down to the Colts level.
Right.
And the Colts level is still down here, even though they're 2-2-1, and it needs to be up here.
Look at the position they're in now. They got Jacksonville coming in. Jacksonville is coming off of a loss inexplicably to Houston that brings them back down to earth. So you got Jacksonville coming in. Then you go to, I think, then do they
Nashville.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're in first place. If you win the next 2 games, you're in first place by yourself. Like, not tied. You're in first place by yourself.
Can they win in
the next few
Nashville?
days. Of course they can.
Yeah.
That's the thing that's so frustrating about the Colts is that I think if things break the right way, they can win a lot of these games. Something else that we didn't talk about is that Matt Ryan threw 2 more horrible interceptions. Like, those weren't pressure related. I feel bad. I feel bad for him. I feel bad for him from the offensive line standpoint. But those were 2 indefensible throws that he had. He can't do that.
Matt Ryan right now is not a nominee for our Who's Cooking, right?
No. Even though he was very gritty in those final 2
he
scoring
was.
drives.
Played well in the end.
Okay. That doesn't erase, though, you're a net negative for 55 minutes. That's my whole problem. It's, we want to evaluate things based on the result, and I'm looking at how they got to that result, and that's why I've been a little bit of a Debbie Downer today, so I'm sorry.
I'm surprised you were not at German Fest over the weekend.
I usually go. Yeah, I did not go.
They had a Stein holding competition. I got to MC it with Lindsay Monroe from WTHR.
Oh, really?
Wiener dog races.
Yep.
Fabulous.
Yep.
Congratulations. Christy Adams, our former coworker.
Did hers win?
Bernie.
Yeah, Bernie's cleans up in those wiener dog races.
Bernie was the 1 o'clock winner. Pork Chop, the winner in the 2 o'clock races.
Okay.
And I believe Brew was a winner.
Yeah.
And then they had a Stein holding competition. Just, you got to stand there with your Steins, your fully loaded Steins. Very strict rules.
Did you have any German ancestry?
Yes.
Okay. I was going to say, I didn't know why they invited you over me. It seems like I would be a more natural fit.
Well,
I also MC on the side, Schultz Media LLC.
First off, you got to see over the big
Derek
crowds.
at QueryandSchultz.com for inquiries.
Big crowds for the wiener dog races. You got to see over the crowd to be able to call what's happening.
And I'm usually about 2 to 3 months out, so get on me very early if you want me to come and appearances, MC, anything like that. Derek at QueryandSchultz.com.
Okay. Bratwurst eating contest. Jack Kaiser ate. He had 8 bratwursts in 6 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah. Mo, who was the lone female representative in the bratwurst eating contest, she recycled.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not good. Yeah.
Those
things, the caloric intake of those things are much more than
keg
hot
throwing
dogs.
contest.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, they had to kind of clear everybody away from the haze.
That'd be a problem.
The bales of hay. 1 errant throw, no one injured, unfortunately. No spectators were injured. But it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
It was a great weekend for any of that. Just the weather you couldn't have asked for. Really, the last 2 weeks here in central Indiana.
Yeah, it was great.
Absolutely gorgeous.
It was perfect. But we got a lot to get to today, right?
Yeah, we're going to talk about our Who's Cooking?
Yeah, you want to do that?
Okay, let's do it right now.
All right.
Because I think you started to kind of allude to that. Obviously, we were at Lou's on Thursday for our great show at Broad Ripple. We thank the Jennifers and everybody
Life-size tomatoes.
having us out there. Don't put that in your mouth, please. I think you can go in several different directions. Last week we gave it to Alec Pierce. I mean, you could easily make him that again. Chase McLaughlin as well. You could go with, but I actually did go with Deion Jackson just because
It's good.
Yeah, it's a
Both
nice
of
story.
them. Lindsay as
It's
well.
a nice story. I mean, Jackson is a RB4 essentially on the team.
He's a special teams guy.
Yeah, he ended up being an RB1 when they needed him to. Where
did he play collegiately?
You're down your 2. I have no idea. You're down your
Do
2
you want to
starting.
guess? I'm going to go with Florida.
That's usually a good guess. Or like North Carolina. I feel like a lot of skill position guys went to North Carolina.
I'm going to look this up here.
I'm going to say Deion Jackson went to Arizona State.
Nah.
Yeah. Where do you go?
Deion Jackson. He is from Atlanta, Georgia, his hometown.
Oh, then he definitely didn't go to Arizona State.
He went
SEC school.
He went to Pace Academy for high school.
Okay.
He was a Dookie.
Duke, okay.
The Duke Blue Devils.
Yeah. Did not know
But he played well. His number was called, and he was in there and able to play. And for that matter, Philip Lindsay ran hard as well, right?
I'm just glad that we're starting to have some Who's Cooking segments where there actually was an individual performer that is worthy of having a Who's Cooking award. So order.loumalnati's.com for Central Indiana locations, including our favorite in Broad Ripple.
And the Broad Ripple is dine-in, right?
Yes. Well, it's also carry out and delivery, but it's the only dine-in location.
It's fabulous.
And then Avon by the end of the year, so that'll make it an even number 5.
When is the white pizza available?
White pie is available starting today, October 10th.
Let me tell you something.
The white pie at Lou Malnati's. Very,
Is
very
that
good.
permanent?
I don't know.
It is.
I'll ask the Jennifers.
It tasted a lot like a fabulous. What sort of cheese was it that was on there? Huh?
Ricotta.
Okay. Spinach in there,
Yeah,
right?
but I say it like authentic, like ricotta.
It was like a
Mozzarella.
spinach and cheese croissant almost.
Yeah. See, look at you breaking out the French a little bit.
Croissant.
Yeah. Francais.
Fabulous.
Oui, oui. White pie. Very good.
It was fabulous.
It was excellent. Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm a big fan of ricotta and prove and all that stuff.
Provolone.
Gabagool, sopressata, prosciutto, all that stuff.
Okay.
Really, really good.
I'm going to be in
Yummy.
Italy in like 3 weeks.
I know. Yeah. You're going to have another fill-in host. Does that get taken from his check, Greg? We'll have to ask about that. I feel like 2 absences in a month, we should start maybe docking some of the
I don't get a check.
pay. Because
I write this off as a charity for you.
I mean, we technically split, him and I, but I feel like it's more of a 60-40, 65-35 thing here lately. Oh, there. He's got him right there. What stood out to you about Week 5 in the NFL? We'll talk about that. Also, more features to get to. Our Love That Play, of course. We've got Chateau Kitchen's Buy It or Bowl Bleep. We've got Quick Hits. We got a lot to get to.
We do.
Here on Query and Schultz. Episode 106 here on the ISC Sports Network. Stick around.
106. Amazing.
Hey, AC!
Nice snap.
Mortgage is a snap! Duh!
Bailey and Wood, a lending hand for Wish TV Sports.
Other universities didn't fit into my life.
They said I'd have to quit my job to go to school.
He said it would take me 4 years to graduate. They said I have to take tests when they tell me to.
They said my degree would cost a fortune.
But I didn't have to listen to them.
Because I have a university that listens to me.
Tests on your time, courses on your time, graduate on your time. WGU, the University of You.
Hey, AC!
Nice snap.
Mortgage is a snap! Duh!
Bailey and Wood, a lending hand for Wish TV Sports.
Welcome back. Bailey and Wood presents Query and Schultz here on the ISC Sports Network. Alongside Jake Query, I'm Derek Schultz. 855-350-HOME and BAWFG.com for our friends
FG, Derek.
at Bailey and Wood Financial Group. Mortgages in a snap, and they will take care of you, whether it's getting qualified, pre-qualified
Kind of hurt.
for your mortgage, or
very good snapper.
You're in the market for a home. Perhaps you want to refi, which where interest rates are, you probably don't want to do that right now. But generally speaking, they've been a great partner to refinance with. BAWFG.com, 855-350-HOME. Looking around the rest of the league on yesterday and just Week 5 in general, you actually mentioned this, a big result going in the Colts' favor with Houston stepping up and winning. I wasn't aware of this. Were you aware that Houston's won like 9 straight against Jacksonville?
How about that? Here's the thing. You would expect that, right? I mean, most normal, rational adult franchises, their last meeting should have beaten Jacksonville.
They've been pretty cruddy, though, the last 3 years.
Houston has, but that
9
shows
straight?
you how cruddy Jacksonville's been
Jake,
to everyone but the
The
Colts.
all-time series, Houston has beaten them like 37 out of 50 times. It was great. I looked it up, and I was like, this is crazy. Houston has beaten Jacksonville far more often than the Colts have beaten Jacksonville. But anyway, that frees things up as far as the AFC South standings goes. Unfortunately, Washington couldn't help out. They had Tennessee there.
Carson Wentz, I'm watching. It's a beautiful day on Sunday, and went out and did the Monon, and get home, turn on the television. just as Washington is setting up for like a 1st and goal against Tennessee in the final 30 seconds, and they need like 2 yards for a touchdown to win and help the Colts tremendously. Not only does it help the Colts, there are 2 ways it helps the Colts. We'll get to that. But Carson Wentz throws into the end zone, picked off, game over, Tennessee wins. That nails the Colts for 2 reasons. Number one, the obvious, right? The obvious being that Tennessee stays, divisional foe for the Colts. Number 2, and more subtly, the Colts get Washington's pick. One of those is conditional on Carson Wentz. I got something in my throat.
Yeah, one of the picks was a pick swap.
Thank you. I don't know
and
what
the
happened.
other one is a conditional third that becomes a second if he plays a certain number of snaps.
Correct. He has to play 70%, right? So you need Washington to be kind of in contention and Carson Wentz to playing well, right?
I think so, but the conventional wisdom is that you're not going to just suddenly bench him even if you're out of it. The Colts.
How do you know?
Yeah, I mean, people wanted the Colts to do that when they were struggling last year.
Now, I also watched Jacoby Brissett do Jacoby Brissett things,
Yeah,
right?
he is who he is. I mean, we keep – I saw somebody tweet – I forget if it was Joel Erickson or Zach Hicks. It was one of the Colts media guys. Somebody tweeted, did we give up on Brissett too soon? And I'm thinking to myself, my God, guys, like we're still with this narrative? Brissett had 30 starts in 4 years here. That's far more than enough of a sample size to determine who he is. And Wentz is who he is. Wentz is going to have – I'm looking at his numbers now, 280 yards a game. 10 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 63% complete. Yeah, he's fine. You're not going to win with that guy.
Do you know the only difference between Jacoby Brissett and Carson Wentz?
Wentz at least has some elite traits in his bag?
The biggest difference, I shouldn't say the only, the biggest difference between Carson Wentz and Jacoby Brissett is the expectation upon both of them upon their entry of the league. Jacoby Brissett is a guy that was brought in and always thought was going to be a backup that could spot you a little bit as a starter. Carson Wentz was drafted in the top 3 picks in the NFL, and everywhere he's been has been asked to be a franchise guy, and he's not. But Carson Wentz's underperformance is the equivalent of Jacoby Brissett's overperformance based on where and how they were acquired.
Yeah, I agree with that. And the money that they've been paid, Wentz with the big contract in Philly.
I mean, they're basically the same quarterback.
I love either of those guys with a 10-point lead and 4 minutes left. I really like. If you're down 2 with 4 minutes left, I don't like either of them.
Yeah, I mean, I think both of them
they're fine.
Correct.
They're not bad. Like I don't think
Correct.
Brissett is bad. Wentz can be bad, but overall, I don't think he's bad. And that may be like a unpopular opinion because people wanted to bury Wentz after last year, and I get it. There was a lot of frustration. But you can't win with those guys. Even if everything is perfect, I don't think you can be like a championship level team with either of those guys.
Right.
I think you'd be a playoff team maybe, but not a championship level team.
Yeah, that's fair.
Looking around some of the rest of the games, how about the Giants? How about the NFC East besides Washington?
You're right.
3-4-1
The Giants
and 5-0
absolutely
teams.
have been the surprise so far. Daniel Jones, he's he's Brissett and Wentz, right?
What I worry about with Daniel Jones is that he's just fine. He's a nice, steady player, but that's all that he is. But he really gutted it out yesterday. He was on a bum ankle and made some big plays. It's great to see Saquon Barkley show that promise
Starting
and be
to show what he
healthy
can do, right.
and all of that. But that was shocking. And, something that has been kind of a narrative around Rodgers' career, and for some reason we've forgiven him, and we never did this with Manning, is that it feels like, and it's just a regular season game in October, right? The postseason is what's going to define Green Bay, but are they just going to fall short again? Like, is Green Bay ever going to be a real title contender, and is that going to happen again with Rodgers?
Green Bay's problem is this. Green Bay's problem is that Aaron Rodgers is a wonderful talent, indisputably. And Aaron Rodgers is a wonderful talent who has now allowed his football excess to supersede his success on the field. He is more concerned with he appears to be kind of a narcissist, and he's a wonderful talent. I don't know the guy at all, but he appears to love distraction.
I just think
there's always – do you remember Pigpen?
Yeah, Peanuts?
Yeah.
Sure.
Aaron Rodgers is like Pigpen, but the little waves coming off of him all the time are not malodorous. They're just distraction.
Drama.
They're drama.
Yeah.
They're drama all the time. Family drama, teammate drama, ex-teammate drama, girlfriend drama, fiance drama, franchise drama, just all over the place.
Too bad because he's an unbelievable.
He's a great
generational
player. No
level
question.
quarterback.
No
it's
question.
Just they remind me of.
And I don't think he's a bad guy. He's always around drama.
The Packers, and watch, they'll make me eat my words and go to the Super Bowl or something this year. The Packers remind me of those '90s Dolphins teams where they just churn out those good seasons and then they never actually kind of get anywhere.
Speaking of the Dolphins, I mean, I feel bad for Bailey and Wood.
Oh yeah,
because here the Dolphins are now. They're 3-2, and they're down to quarterback 3.
QB3, yeah, which is it's hard to win with QB2, much less QB3 in the NFL. But how about the Jets 3-2? The two.
How about
New
Zach
York
Wilson,
teams,
man?
When's the last time the 2 New York teams have had winning records in October?
Yeah.
10 years? Probably longer. I mean, you probably have to go back to the heyday of the Rex Ryan years and then Coughlin with the Giants.
Rex Ryan was on Amazing Race. Did you ever watch that show?
Yes.
Wonderful show.
Yeah, I know you love that show. Ashley loves that show.
Rex Ryan.
Did not know that.
I won't spoil it for those of you that might be watching. I can't imagine there's anybody doing that. Rex Ryan, one of the teams on The Amazing Race.
Wow.
Yeah.
With just some
a golf buddy of his, a guy that he met 6 years ago. This is actually kind of cool. Rex Ryan is on The Amazing Race, and his team partner is a guy that he met at a charity golf tournament, and they became buddies. They started golfing together, and now they're like best buddies.
That's kind of like what your life's been. Where you meet like a rich person that lives in a different country, and then you suddenly become best friends, and then they're like, "Hey, come stay at my Gold Coast condo," and you're like, "What? How do you know these people?"
Yeah. I've decided, my goal in life is to be on The Amazing Race, which is really the only life goal that I've ever had that I haven't accomplished.
The problem is that you would get caught up talking to people.
No,
you wouldn't move station to station
because
because you'd have to be telling somebody something.
Here's the thing: I decided if I want to be on The Amazing Race, I have determined who would be the person that can get me on.
I already know who your partner would be.
Who?
The person that has spent the most time with you, at least professionally, in your adult life.
Dave First?
Everyday radio show, 8.5 years?
Everyday television show. Television, a lot more hours than radio.
Yeah, but you guys would rotate sometimes. You wouldn't always be at the studio at the same time.
Here's the thing. A 2-person radio show on The Amazing Race, they've had like 2 people that were YouTube partners, or I'm sure they've had like radio host. I mean, it's kind of played out, right?
Yeah.
Right now they have a team that's pretty interesting of 2 girls that were identical twins but were given up for adoption upon birth and never knew that they had a twin. And now they've met and they're on The Amazing Race together. I determined that if I'm going to be on The Amazing Race, the story, and this will give it away, the story that would put me on the show.
I mean, this is what I'm talking about.
The connection.
Like, yeah, this is.
Who would it be?
You would stop at every station doing this, where you're just talking and talking and talking. We're like, okay, we got to get to the next station.
Who would it be?
I don't know.
Mottman.
Okay, the guy that saved your life? Yeah,
yes.
That's not bad. And he, runs marathons and stuff, right?
He's done it with me.
I'm just saying, he's a physically fit guy.
But, if they had a challenge that, the latest challenge on Amazing Race, they had to do a thing about the anatomy in Italy with a surgeon. And I'm like, this guy performed a heart cath on me. You kidding me?
Yeah, my feeling is that
people would root for that. They'd be like, this is a cool story. Here's this guy that's on Amazing Race, and he had a heart attack, and the guy that did his heart cath is his teammate.
You definitely have the story there. I think my perfect Amazing Race team is male-female because I think you need to have both brains work very differently. I think you need to have both. I think my wife and I would make a great Amazing Race team if she wouldn't divorce me during Amazing Race.
She absolutely would.
We have any task together, and it would be
There are
horrible.
a ton of spouse. There's so many spousal and domestic. So Shannon thinks that a good teammate for me would be Emily Longnecker.
Yeah, I agree. Because there's just something about there's some challenges and things like that, and when you're it's a lot of strategy and deep thinking, and sometimes you need the male brain and a female brain and have the combined powers of those 2 things instead of just 2 dudes being like, duh.
With the 2 of us, which one has the male brain and which has the female brain?
I think I'm more compassionate and intelligent, so I probably have more of the female brain. You have more of the male brain in that sort of scenario, I think. But I think we would make a great team because we already make a great team. It's Corey and Schultz.
I don't think so.
We've had a lot of success.
I don't think it would work, Derek.
Let's get to our Love That Play. It's brought to you by our friends
roadsiding
at
Greece
Love Heating
somewhere.
And Cooling. Speaking of a great team, how about Chris and John Love for
They are a
Amazing
great
Race?
team.
That wouldn't be bad.
Speaking of identical twins.
Yeah, but two very kind of different people.
correct.
I think they would probably kill each other in Amazing Race, but still. 353-2141, love-hvac.com for our friends at Love That Play. They've been in business since 1920. 100+ years, so they know what they're doing. Give them a call today if you need your heat service because it's going to get real cold here in about 7 days.
Should I not confess to what the Loves, and speaking of challenges and athletic competition, what we did with the Loves at Eastwood? I've told this on the radio, I think.
I'm not sure. You've told a lot of stories from 1983 or whatever.
1987 Eastwood Eagles, we were playing, I believe it was at Craig Middle School. John Love, really good player. Chris Love, good player, but John was having a great game, but John got into foul trouble. 3 fouls first half.
Okay.
John, number 20, Chris, number 22. Halftime, switch jerseys. John goes out second half. Suddenly, no fouls.
No one said anything?
How would they know?
Yeah.
They were identical twins.
I didn't know you guys did
They
that.
were
like
identical twins.
I didn't know in Steinmeier they played that way. I always thought like your Pee Wee football championship or whatever was above board, but apparently that was.
No, this was 8th grade basketball.
You guys cheated. Yeah. No, but I mean, just also now I think every athletic competition.
Pee Wee football,
comes
I was on
into
the same team as
question.
Alan Henderson and Derek Mays.
Yeah. It's pretty nice. That's a pretty nice run of talent that has come through there. Justin Tucker, who I think is the greatest kicker to ever live. It's only a 43-yard
indisputably.
kick. It's only a 43-yard kick, right? But I know you hate this. I love next-gen stats. It's really interesting to me. The ball of that game-winning kick in Sunday Night Football against Cincinnati across the upright with a Y coordinate of 26.52.
A what?
The exact middle of the field is 26.67, meaning that kick, if the goalposts were a half yard apart, that kick still would have been good. You know, you talk about splitting the uprights. This was essentially about as close to splitting the uprights as you can humanly accomplish.
I'm taking algebra right now, Derek, and I'm having to do the XY coordinates and all that stuff, and
So this is good for your class. This is helping you stimulate your brain.
It's very challenging to me.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing about like the stats like that, we're getting so overloaded. You know, bat velocity and I mean,
Launch angle, spin rate. Baseball especially is way down the rabbit hole.
Here are
with
the
that stuff.
stats that matter the most. In 61 kicks in a fourth quarter or overtime, 61 kicks, beyond 40 yards, I believe he's perfect. He's never missed a kick in the final minute of a fourth quarter or regulation in his career.
Wow.
He's 18 for 18.
That's incredible.
18 for 18 in the final minute of a fourth quarter or regulation, fourth quarter or overtime of a game.
It's just nuts. Like you see guys that like Ken Griffey Jr. swing or like a golfer, I guess, swing and Tucker striking that ball. Like you could not have possibly kicked that ball better than he kicked it.
Do you know that Justin Tucker, kicker extraordinaire, and by the way, I love that play winner for his kick that defeated the Cincinnati Bengals. Love that play, brought to you by the good guys at Love Heating and Air Conditioning. Love-HVAC.com. Been around for over 100 years in central Indiana, and despite my story about our middle school basketball team jersey switching, scrupulous all the way down to the bone. I just had somebody send me a thing the other day, and they're like, look, we called everybody. Love came out. They were not only more affordable than the competition, but they were totally on it. 24-hour on-call maintenance. That's what you want from those that are servicing your heating and air conditioning. But Justin Tucker, Derek, in addition to being the kicker of which you speak, he can sing opera in 7 different languages and has been offered the opportunity to sing with the Baltimore Opera.
That's crazy. Wow.
That's impressive, isn't it?
I can't in different languages, but as a child, I was offered a spot in a opera feeding program that went all the way to Carnegie.
They were going to feed you to an opera?
No. They saw potential in me because I can hit several different octaves. I'm actually a very gifted singer. I've never displayed that on the show. I don't know why you or anybody in the audience would know that, but it's one of my many gifts. But I never ended up pursuing opera.
Were you a tenor?
Like I said,
Baritone?
I could hit any of those.
Soprano?
I was versatile.
Alto?
It's like asking LeBron James what position he plays. You can't pigeonhole me really into one of those things because I can do all of those things. Or I could.
In what grade did this allegedly take place?
I was 8.
You were 8.
Yeah.
And in what capacity was this operatic voice of yours discovered at the age of 8?
I was in
There's no way this is possible.
I was in a summer camp, Trumbull Sings, and they noticed very early on that I was a standout in that camp. I was a soloist.
That's
and
a
then
shock.
I started expanding. Opera,
You were a soloist for most of your camp career.
opera
were you
is
not?
very different from. They usually had me off to the side. Yes, I was not generally in with the other kids. But opera is a whole different discipline than just singing. Like anybody can just sing. Like I was advanced kind of past that. But it's just sometimes I think about could I have pursued that? But I think this career has been more meaningful and probably more lucrative than what I would have had as a professional opera singer.
Now, I'm just curious because we're going to run down real quick some of your childhood exploits. You were a wiffle ball champion?
Mm-hmm. Triple Crown winner, MVP,
Okay.
and champion.
You were skilled on a high dive?
High dive, yes, very much so. Still am.
Okay.
They've taken a lot of the high dives down, but off a diving board, I'm excellent.
You were a stilter, if I'm not mistaken?
I did stilts, yep.
Okay. You were an entrepreneur?
Yep. I had a card business, sports card business, Stefan Sports Cards.
And an opera singer?
Yeah, you're missing one, though. It was the 90s.
You had a backwards visor?
I'm excellent on rollerblades. Really, really good rollerblader.
No chance that's correct.
Oh, 100%. I would
No
rollerblade
chance.
all over your face.
Why don't you do it? I was on the Monon yesterday. I saw a guy rollerblading. Why don't you? I've never seen you do it.
It's just not something that I pursue anymore. Like these things in my life, like I do it, I learn it, I excel at it, and then I move on to the next challenge.
Can you rollerblade backwards?
Like my life is very different from yours, where I've kind of moved around and not just stayed in something where I'm comfortable. Like you have basically lived around the Steak and Shake in Nora for most of your life. Like I've gone and tried opera, I've tried blading, I've tried stilting at a region, not the national level, but a regional level. And then I moved on to the next thing.
A regional level of stilting?
I only did regionals. I didn't qualify.
What
for
region was
nationals.
this?
Great Lakes. We actually came out here for it. Because I started in South Bend in with my grandparents. They were the ones that had stilts at their house.
If you are aware of the Great Lakes Stilting Regional Competitions or the Great Lakes Region Stilting Club, please let us know. I would like to know if there are records, archives, video, and or proof of Derek's stilting career.
I can get in touch with somebody in the GLSG, and they can let you know about that.
Okay.
It's a great group. It's a great group of guys, great group
sure
of
it
kids
is.
as well. We're way off track here, but we've got our college football Hoagies and Hops Hoagie and Hero of the Week. We still have plenty to get to here on this loaded edition of Corey and Schultz, ISC Sports Center. You have to make fun of everything that I've accomplished in my life. It's really sad.
Okay.
Hey, I'm Jeff Saturday, and my favorite thing when I was a professional football player was Indiana. The Hoosier State always made me feel like family. That's why I trust Indiana's hometown mortgage lender, Bailey & Wood. This family-owned company not only gives back to the communities they serve, but also with their 5-star customer service, they can close on your dream home in days, not weeks. So remember, Indiana, you can always get your mortgages at a snap with Bailey & Wood.
Hey, Jeff, how does this look? Yay!
Not bad, bud, but let's stick to mortgages.
Welcome back to Query and Schultz. My name is Jake Query, sitting next to the operatic Derek Schultz.
That's just a little preview, a little taste. A little taste of what I can do.
Zero chance that was ever esteemed.
Like I said, did not get vocal training. I still have some pillars,
Gee, what a
some
shock.
core. I have a foundation to build upon still. I'm almost 40. So generally speaking, like you don't want to wait that long to train your vocal cords.
You said a little taste. Most importantly, it is time for our big taste of the week for
Yum.
Hoagies and Hops, right?
Yeah, I was just in.
I'm diving in right
on.
now.
Actually, I've been in multiple times this past week. I was in Friday.
Fabulous.
Christina and Donnie and everybody behind the glass, I guess, except I feel bad for Vincent, was in Northmont. He was at a different spot. But Jordan, Rake, me, and the rest of the crew we had a fabulous game between Ben Davis and Lawrence Central, which essentially decided the MIC championship. But anyway, Christina and Donnie from Hoagies and Hops made us 2 catering trays, 2 big guys, and our entire crew just raved about it, loved it, with a couple of their cold sandwiches. We've got a hot sandwich today.
This is wonderful.
You know, of the many Philly steaks, this is my favorite one because I think it's the most unique one. And she does a straight cheesesteak at Hoagies and Hops. It's a chicken Philly. There are a couple of variations of her cheesesteaks. This is called the Very Best. So think of a Philly steak, but with almost like a Sloppy Joe-esque spice. Wouldn't you agree? Like kind of a red sauce that is the house spicy sauce that only Christina knows the recipe to. And it's delicious. And it's named after a sandwich shop in PA that I believe is called the Very Best. So that's what we've got for
This
today.
is wonderful. I mean, really good. Like now, we're hoping Derek doesn't swear.
Very good.
What's that?
Really, really good. I don't usually like American, but this has American on it. And it just fits. It's better than having like Prove or Whiz or anything like that. I really like it with the American.
Derek, you just lost our entire Johnson County audience.
42nd and Boulevard, hoagiesandhops.com for catering and just for sandwiches. They're absolutely delicious. Hero of the week. I hesitate here because I don't want to pre-crown this person because they have one of the biggest games that they've had in almost 20 years coming up here. But Tennessee's 5-0. They waxed LSU on the road this past weekend, and now they get to host Alabama coming up here on Saturday. But, you know, we keep talking about these programs trying to find the guy that takes them forward. Nebraska hasn't found it.
It is fun when Tennessee's good, is it?
Yeah,
not?
I think so. Yeah, their fans are kind of annoying, but yeah, Miami hasn't found their guy. Florida State maybe found their guy. Notre Dame had
I
theirs
think Florida State's got a good
previously with Brian Kelly, but I think Tennessee probably has it with Josh Heupel. Just to put it in perspective, Jake, Tennessee's already 5-0 this season. That win output alone already matches at least half of their last 15 seasons. That's how down Tennessee has been.
Tennessee, now first off, they're hosting Alabama.
Number 3
Neyland
versus number
Stadium.
6. Yep.
Byron and I are doing our annual Turhan Memorial Road trip this weekend. And we're flying to New Orleans and then circuitously driving back. We had planned on going through Oxford, Mississippi on Saturday. Ole Miss is hosting Auburn. I'm heavily considering asking him, hey, do we want to reroute this and go up and across and through Knoxville?
Well,
to
were you
Knoxville
planning on
Saturday
attending
night?
that game?
Well, no, just being in the atmosphere.
Okay, yeah. If you're not planning on attending, because I would have to imagine, I know Tennessee seats 110,000 people. I'd imagine that ticket has got to be like the hottest ticket in town.
Let's look right now. What do you think it's going for?
To get in the door?
Yeah.
You know, maybe I'm wrong because it's such a big stadium. Maybe just to get in the door, it's a little bit cheaper. But I would guess you're talking at least $100 to get in the door.
Okay. Now, Ole Miss was going for close to that.
Yeah, really? But how big is their stadium?
Probably
the
yeah,
Grove or
75
something, right? Yeah. I would think that Ole Miss would be a cool college football Saturday atmosphere.
Looks like it says this event is selling fast.
Yeah.
Okay. For 2 tickets, yeah, okay.
What is it?
Well, we're going to put in the top corner of the stadium and see $360 each.
Wow. Just to get in the door.
Mm-hmm.
110,000 people, and you're sitting in the top row for $300 each plus.
That's crazy, isn't it?
But again, it's one of their biggest games. So congrats to Josh Heupel.
That's cool. I mean, and listen, if you've never been to a night game in the SEC in general, but certainly at Tennessee, it's pretty awesome. And you know, Derek, a couple of years ago, Indiana played. What game did they play Tennessee in a bowl game?
Gator Bowl.
That's
and they
right.
blew it. Yeah.
You know, I knew several people that went down there and said the Tennessee fans were super cool.
Yeah, I mean,
they were there to have fun. They knew, they were. Tennessee was probably disappointed to be in the Gator Bowl. Indiana was elated to be there.
I mean, it's kind of like the southern version of Indiana. They're real proud people. You know,
Yeah,
like
cool.
they're super proud to be. They love the fact that they're from Tennessee. Like Indiana people are from Indiana, and they kind of want to tell you about it. I feel like,
Right.
and Tennessee people are kind of like that too. But you know, salt of the
Do you
earth
like that
and all
Rocky Top?
Yeah, I do. I like the orange. Orange was my favorite
It's
color
cool.
as a kid, but
It's cool.
I know it can be quite blinding when there's
Orange was your favorite
110,000
color?
people. Yeah,
But you weren't a Mets fan?
Knicks. I mean, that's basically what it comes down to. Speaking of great atmospheres, at Maryland for a noon game is a really tough place to put them. Look, a road win for Purdue against a Maryland team that is pretty good, right? important, and they gutted it out. Aiden O'Connell, clearly not fully healthy, but still made a go of it, passed for 360. They couldn't run the ball at all. And I said it last week, and it remains true. There isn't a single team remaining on Purdue's schedule that they can't beat. That doesn't mean that they're going to win every game. It just means that there is not a single game on their schedule against an opponent that will absolutely 100% beat them.
Now, that Maryland team that Purdue beat is next on the docket for Indiana, right?
Yeah, I do think that's right, yes. And that's a game, if they're going to be bowl eligible, which they're not, but if they are going to be bowl eligible, that's the game that they have.
Indiana's got Maryland, and then they go at Rutgers.
Yeah.
And then
you have to basically win those next two.
Then Michigan, Penn State, at Michigan State.
You have to win the next 2 weeks.
Meanwhile, Derek, we're going to be, speaking of a couple of weeks, on October 22nd, we'll be back on the road and excited to do so. Schumann Stadium at noon, we will be doing Query and Schultz live on ISC Sports Network. That's because shortly after that, at 2 o'clock, Ball State will be kicking off against Eastern Michigan. Returning to MAC play after this weekend, they will be stepping out of the conference to take on UConn. But, Derek, they're coming off a win where we were there, and Ball State goes in and gets behind early to Northern Illinois. And, you know, what did they talk about? They needed to start getting things going in terms of the conference. And Mike New's team did exactly that against Northern Illinois. In overtime, they get a win. And now they're coming off another win, Central Michigan, 17-16 over the weekend. So they're doing in conference play what they need to do.
It's a tough league, man. I mean,
it is.
Any week you can win.
A lot of parity.
That's the blessing. Any week you can lose. That's the curse. But they were a 7.5-point underdog, and they won that game outright. Had to rally late. They were down 21 donut to Northern Illinois. They were down 10 donut to Central. So 2 double-digit leads, deficits to overcome in the last 2 weeks. Carson Steele over the 100-yard mark for the 4th time. And now you get UConn. UConn's improved. They've won They've actually won 3 games this year. Not against great competition, but still. And so hopefully we're talking about a team with a winning record when we're heading to the shoe at 4-3.
Well, Derek, you know, I want to emphasize this again. When I was a kid, my dad, you know, we used to go to the Butler Bowl to watch Butler play because it was college football. And I was thrilled over the fact that I was seeing a college football game. And you want to talk about watching college football, watching it at a high level in the MAC. And for just $15 to get into a very easy-to-get-to stadium if you're in the central Indiana area, 45-minute, hour drive to get up to Ball State, enjoy the beautiful weather, enjoy, college football Division I level in the MAC, one of the great leagues that you see on prime time on ESPN throughout the course of the week. So great opportunity for people to go up and watch for just $15.
Absolutely. We can't wait to be there, like you said, a week from Saturday. Couple of things just on those games. And Notre Dame with a win as well. A very strange game against BYU that they completely dominated outside of like a 7-minute stretch between the 3rd and 4th quarter where BYU got back into the game. But a nice win for Notre Dame.
I'm worried about Clemson going to Notre Dame.
Notre Dame's big strength is what they have up front on both lines. Their offensive line has been unbelievable so far this year, like way above, I think, even what reasonable expectations were. And defensively, they're stout. They can run. They have one guy to worry about offensively, and that's Michael Mayer. He's the best tight end in the country. He's like a little Rob Gronkowski. Like, he's gigantic and unbelievable athlete.
Is Gronk the greatest tight end of all time?
Pound for pound, I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, that's who I'd take.
Right.
But there have been a lot of great tight ends. But Indiana offensively has to figure it out the next couple of weeks because against Michigan,
to say the least.
I mean, they averaged 2.6 yards per play, yes, less than a yard per carry. Overall, Indiana ran 73 plays for 222 yards. That's 3 YPP. I mean, you have to get your YIP level to be in a position to win has to be probably like north of 5. 4.5, I'd say, is probably about the cutoff.
YPP?
Yeah, YIP. I mean, 3 YIP that's like if you ran every play, you'd be punting on 4th and 1, right? If you extrapolate
YIP is yard per play?
Yards per play.
Okay. You could just say yards per play.
I just said it, YIP. People know exactly what I'm talking about. But a 3 YIP, I mean, even against a good Michigan team and a stout defense, 3 YIP that's rough. The offense has to have more punch than that.
Okay.
Just not good enough. We come back on the show, our Sage Move of the Week. We'll talk a little baseball playoffs. I feel like we barely talked baseball on the show. A very entertaining wild card round and a lot of surprises as far as the wild card round was concerned. Plus our quick hits when we return. It's Query and Schultz here on the ISC Sports Network.
Derek, quick hits.
Nice snap.
Mortgage is a snap. Duh.
Bailey and Wood, a lending hand for Wish TV Sports.
Other universities didn't fit into my life.
They said I'd have to quit my job to go to school.
They said it would take me 4 years to graduate. They said I have to take tests when they tell me to.
They said my degree would cost a fortune.
But I didn't have to listen to them.
Because I have a university that listens to me.
Tests on your time, courses on your time, graduate on your time. WGU, the University of You.
Hey, AC.
Nice snap.
Mortgage is a snap. Duh.
Bailey and Wood, a lending hand for Wish TV Sports.
Welcome back to Square and Schultz here on the ISC Sports Network. Thanks to Vince, Greg, Jordan, everybody on the other side of the glass for, we used to say in the radio business, making sure our signal gets to you. Remember me saying that?
No, I'd never said that.
I used to say that.
Okay.
I was more of a radio guy than you are.
Probably true.
That's the bottom line. I wanted to mention this while we were talking about the college football weekend. I'm sure maybe you saw this, even in passing if you weren't watching live. Kind of a scary incident where Mike Hart,
Yeah, the former Michigan running back and Colt running back,
had a seizure on the sideline during the game, and they released Michigan released a statement this morning that he's back in Ann Arbor and his health is trending in a positive direction. So you're happy to see that. His Indiana ties actually not just the fact that he spent 3 years as a Colt, but also coaching at IU. So a guy that is well known here and always seemed like a good dude. I don't remember if we actually had him
really good player at Michigan
on the show ever.
Obviously,
I guess that would have predated Quarian Schultz. That would have been like the late Polian years, right?
I think that's right.
Oh, he was on the Super Bowl team that lost to the Saints. I remember that.
Was he really?
I don't want to relive this again, but remember before halftime where the Colts had the ball and Caldwell called those 3 chicken bleep runs in a row. I'm pretty sure one of those went to Hart. And then the Saints stuffed it. They got the ball back, scored the onside kick to Hank Baskett to start the half. And the entire game changed at that point.
Okay.
I can't, you know me, Jake, like I'm not even emotionally invested in the Colts. That 2009 Super Bowl was a game that if they would have played that game 100 times, I am convinced that the Colts would have won 98 of them.
I mean, they were pretty good.
It's just everything that had to go the Saints' way in that game. And the Colts made those mistakes and allowed it, but everything that had to go their way went their way.
Have you ever seen the video of the bar in the French Quarter when Tracy Porter had the pick?
No. It's pretty sweet.
It's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, my apologies to Colts fans, but it's pretty awesome.
Well, what's awesome about that, if you're Tracy Porter, you had about 40 yards to celebrate. I mean, he was gone at
doing
midfield.
This the whole
yeah,
way,
I mean,
right?
that's the
he's
best.
He's running just.
That's got to be the best feeling in the world. Taylor Stubblefield, I think, did that at Notre Dame when Purdue, he had a 99-yard touchdown pass, and his defender fell down at like the 50-yard line. So he's doing boiler up all the way down the sidelines. Like, that's got to feel pretty great.
Yeah.
So Mike Hart's going to be okay, it looks like.
Would you rather have a play like that where you've got open field to secure the Super Bowl and the ball in your hands and soak that up? Would you rather be the guy that hits a walk-off home run in the World Series and gets around the bases while everybody's cheering?
Oh, boy. I think I would rather round the bases because at least I know no one's going to catch me.
Right.
Like
It's
Tracy
over.
Porter knew that no one was going to catch him, I guess. But there was still, 2 minutes left in that game probably.
Hey, Ryan Dean was sprinting down after him. I'll give him that.
So, having it be over and then that celebration, I think, is a whole different level of, hey, the game's still going on. I've got to compose myself and get back out there again. That's just kind of – that's an excellent question, though. Speaking of walk-off homers, we did see that in the Cleveland series, and it's the subject of our Sage Move of the Week from our friends at WGU Indiana. WGU.edu/Indiana for our friends at WGU Indiana. Degrees on your own time, and you see Sage there in the background
Sage is wonderful. Look at that.
doing Sage things. We had Corey Elliott in here filling in for you a couple of weeks ago, and he was talking about all the degrees and all the different programs that they've handed out over the past couple of years. It's an amazing program.
Largest
so if you're
online
looking to
accredited university in the state.
improve your education and go back to school, or maybe you just decided, hey, I never finished. I want to go ahead and finish out. You could do so with our friends at WGU Indiana. Underdogs getting it done. The only series where the home team won if you don't know, the format this year was a new wild card format where it was a best of 3, and all 3 games were in the home stadium of the higher seed. So the only home team
There was no
that
they didn't have
held
to go
serve.
back? I didn't realize that.
Yeah. So the only home team that ended up holding serve was the other American League team, the Guardians. Sorry. Guardians against the Rays. They won 2 games in Cleveland, and that was it. But the Padres went and won an elimination game last night against the Mets.
How about the Padres, man?
Yeah, the Mets won 101 games, and now that's it. Your season's over. The Mariners had a huge comeback. They were down 8-1 against the Jays in Game 2, won that. And then the Phillies ending Yadi Molina's Albert Pujols. Man, you just hate to see that. Just a real shame. See the Cardinals season come to an end. But what I like about it, Jake, is that it's new blood. First playoff series win for Seattle since 2001. First time in the playoffs since 2001. This is the first playoff series win for the Phillies. Do you want to guess?
Since they beat the Reds?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy? They no-hit the Reds in Game 1. Roy Halladay, the late great, God rest his soul. So that was like the Jimmy Rollins, Ryan Howard, Chase Utley teams from way back in the day. And it's only the second Padres playoff series win since 1998. Wow. So those are 3 teams that really haven't done
the Guardian. You know,
a
the
whole
one
lot
thing
of
that's kind of cool about the Guardians? I'm going to use the term, and I apologize, especially here on Columbus Day, I guess. With Washington, you still inadvertently hear people say Redskins.
Yeah.
With Cleveland, you just naturally say Guardians. I mean, I've heard everybody just say Guardians. Like it's
been less of a transition. I don't know why.
Right. And I thought the term Guardians, the team name, was actually kind of dumb. I thought they should have been the Cleveland Comets because the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame's there because it was a Cleveland DJ that first termed rock and roll when Bill Haley and the Comets was playing on the radio. But then I found out that what
Guardians, the story, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Once
I found out what the Guardians were, which are the 3 columns of the bridge in Cleveland that guards the city, I'm like, that is super cool, and I think it's
kind of
cool.
neat. Yeah, it is kind of neat. And they transitioned out of that Chief Wahoo logo like 10, 12 years ago. So you got more used to just calling them Cleveland or whatever else than saying Indians, I guess. But congratulations to those teams. And it should be an interesting divisional series here. Yankees get the Guardians, the Mariners and Astros, the Padres and Dodgers. I love it whenever it's division teams playing each other in the divisional. And then the Phillies and Braves. So
By the way, Derek,
both NL series are that.
The Star did a Twitter survey asking if the Indianapolis Indians should change their name.
I saw Dana tweeted it out, yeah.
I'm curious what the results are.
It was 60-40 in favor of not changing their name the last time that I saw.
57%, with 1,386 votes, 57% say keep the
going
Indians
down
name.
a little bit, yeah.
I think the thing about the Indianapolis Indians that is appropriate, maybe is the wrong word, but less egregious, is that it is true that they call them the Indianapolis Indians, but they don't exploit the imagery of Native Americans. There's no caricature, you know, I mean, you know what I mean? The logo is just an Indian art, and everything else is, I think, pretty innocuous and respectful towards, and part of it is the fact that it's Indianapolis.
But again, like, we have to ask Hans how she feels about
Correct.
it, right? She's
Understood.
Navajo, and like it's not really about 2 white guys discussing it.
That's fair. That's very fair.
And I just feel like, look, I'm not losing sleep over it. I don't think the Indians do it in a hateful way. It's just that it feels like one of those things that time has just kind of passed us by when it comes to this era of naming teams that way. So that's why I would be in favor of just
that's fair.
Changing it and moving on. Let's get to our quick hits. We were just talking about Indiana football. They fired their offensive line coach, and Darren Hiller, after another subpar performance. He's going to be replaced by Rod Carey, the former Northern Illinois coach, who we actually had on the show when he was with Northern Illinois.
Temple head coach, I think.
Yep. IU has now had to cycle through 3 offensive coordinators, 3 defensive coordinators, 3 running backs coaches, 2 wide receiver coaches, and now will go on with their second offensive line coach in the Tom Allen tenure. I mean, we'll just leave it at that. I don't know if we need to make another comment. I think you guys
Indiana athletics
know how we feel about that.
Has a history recently of immediately proposing to and marrying the first girl that goes out on a date with them.
Yeah.
Tom Allen's a wonderful guy, nice man, probably a good leader in terms of a defensive coordinator. As a head coach, it ain't it.
Yeah.
And Indiana gave him the 4th largest buyout in college football, and so just keep rotating those assistants.
Yeah, it's not a good approach to take. You got to kind of date around and live it up a little bit, Indiana. That's what I did. So
Okay.
I think that's really what you have to do if you want to take my advice.
Was this during your soloist days at opera camp?
Try a lot of different cuisines.
What was the name of the camp
and
again?
Just see what strikes your fancy.
Trumbull Sings?
Trumbull Sings, exclamation point, yeah.
Okay.
I think I still have one of the T-shirts as well. Quick hit number 2. Official won't admit that he screwed up on the Tom Brady roughing call. Did you see this?
Yes.
Why can't guys look, man? Like, it's hard, right? It's hard to be an NFL referee. Why not just admit afterward? You know what? I was wrong. I blew it. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, you're right.
Clearly, everybody knows that Jerome it's Boger, I guess, right? It's not Booger. Only 1-0. Said that Grady Jarrett unnecessarily threw Tom Brady. No one else. Lamar Jackson doesn't get that call.
Right.
No one else gets that call. Falcons were down by 6 with 3 minutes left to play and would have had the stop.
Yet another factor in people
gotten
not
the ball
liking
back.
the Bucs or Tom Brady.
And it allowed the drive to continue, and it's just we got to stop with that. Player protection is very important, but we can't do this ticky-tack stuff. And that one, there was no gray area there. That was clearly not roughing. That was a perfectly standard tackle. Finally, quick hit number 3. An escaped rodeo bull described as dangerous and extremely aggressive remains at large in North Carolina.
Yes.
As officials search for the 700-pound animal.
Hey, man, I'm rooting for him.
Police in Northwood revealed Wednesday that the bull had escaped from a stockyard in town located about 50 miles east of Charlotte. This is a direct quote from the department. Quote, "This bull is chocolate in color and extremely aggressive. If you see this bull, please call 911 immediately, and under no circumstances should you approach the bull."
You know why he's aggressive?
He will chase you.
Because they have his testicles tied in a knot.
Can we say that word on here?
I just did.
We'll have Jordan. 3, 2, 1.
You know why he's aggressive?
Why is that?
Because his most sensitive privates are tied up in a knot to make him angry for bull riding. I'm rooting for him. I'll drive down to North Carolina right now to find him just to help him. I will. What is it? Abate? Is that what you say?
I think so.
I will assist an actual fugitive. I'll help him out. I'll throw him in the Jeep. Let's go.
Rocky Mountain oysters. That's bull testicles, right?
You just had me redo that because I said that word and you made me redo it.
But mine's I said it in the form of a cuisine, like a food. So I think it's
Who cares?
The context of it matters. You can't just throw around testicles like it's no big deal. Like you have, if you put it in the proper context, then it's
what, like a dish?
You can have.
That's the proper context.
Yeah. Actually, you should probably get that when I said testicles. That the last 2 times when I said it, we should probably get those 2. 3, 2, 1. Rocky Mountain oysters. Oh wait, actually, that's okay to say testicles for that one. Okay, let's move on to the next thing. Charging cars, by the way, this bull out in North Carolina. So don't even approach it with your car.
Yeah, you know why?
And try to check it out. We've got Chateau Kitchen's Bite or Bull Bleep when we come back.
I'm sure they're thrilled.
I feel like we've learned a lot today. Opera, cuisines. We've had a lot going on. Okay. It's been a good show. Episode 106 wraps.
Do you think if they had done that to you, you would have gone from a baritone to an alto?
Hey, I'm Jeff Saturday, and my favorite thing when I was a professional football player was Indiana. The Hoosier State always made me feel like family. That's why I trust Indiana's hometown mortgage lender, Bailey & Wood. This family-owned company not only gives back to the communities they serve, but also with their 5-star customer service, they can close on your dream home in days, not weeks. So remember, Indiana, you can always get your mortgages at a snap with Bailey & Wood.
Hey, Jeff, how does this look? Yay!
Not bad, bud, but let's stick to mortgages.
Back for a final time. Query and Schultz, presented by Bailey & Wood Financial Group here on the IC Sports Network. Thanks so much for joining us, whether you're listening via podcast or perhaps you're on the YouTube channel, which we're trying to grow out.
Trying to grow
Twitch.
out like your hair?
YouTube, I can't seem to crack. There are a lot of people that are just like in their living room, like taking a selfie of themselves, reacting to a game as it's going on, and it gets like 10,000 views. And I'm like, who is watching this crap? Like, who likes this?
Algorithms.
I guess we need to crack that algorithm. Like, I don't know if I need to show a little bit more or what I have to do to maybe we'll freeze this as the thumbnail for the YouTube channel. There we go. Get all that in there. YouTube channel thumbnail.
Done yet?
Right there. That's going to crack the algorithm.
Can I look?
Little curly strands of algorithm right there. We've got Chateau Kitchen's Biter Bowl Bleep to get to, brought to you by our friends at Chateau Kitchen. Speaking of beauty, this beautiful person uses Chateau Kitchens multiple times in his home with what they did with my kitchen and my guest bathroom.
We're not going to show that photo of you getting out of the shower
gorgeous.
again, are you?
We can. Derek at QuarionSchultz.com if you want a copy. Signed copy, just send me an SASE, and I'll get it back to you. Self-addressed stamped envelope. And I'll get it back to you. I'll give you my Media LLC mailbox address.
What's your age of demographic that they're sending you a self-addressed stamped envelope?
There are people that ask for autographs or things like that, and generally speaking, they know to attach an SASE. That's usually how that works. So I'm not out the postage. Postage can be kind of expensive. ChateauKitchens.com. Not expensive. They do a great job. At Chateau Kitchens on Instagram, at Chateau Kitchens on Facebook as well. I give a statement. Jake and I go back and forth whether we bite or it's bowl bleep. Let's go. Statement 1. The next 2 games will define the rest of the season for the Colts. Bite or bowl bleep.
I think that's a fair statement just based on, who you're looking at within the division. I mean, look, you got kind of an assist with Jacksonville being beaten by Houston because you did not expect that. I think we thought for sure that it was going to be a 2-team divisional race. Then you get the third of Jacksonville kind of joining the fray early in the year, but maybe Jacksonville, that water's finding its level a little bit. But with Jacksonville, Tennessee, you've already put yourself in a hole by not winning a division game within your first 3. You've got to get 2 of them. There's really no margin for error.
Yeah, I mean, if they split, they'd probably still hang around this race for a while until the end because I don't think anybody's going to run away and hide in the AFC South race. But it just feels like, Jake, that they're out of mulligans. As you mentioned, they've already started 0-2-1 in the division. Eventually, you're going to have to win some of these games. And I do think that if the Colts kick it into gear in the next 2 weeks, then fine, I'll jump aboard, but not until that happens. Statement 2, the New York Giants will be a playoff team. Bite or bowl bleep.
Boy, you got to look at the rest of the NFC because I don't think they're playing well.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to win their division, though.
No.
So
they're clearly the third best team in that
So then
division.
you have to look at the other NFC wild card contenders. How many teams make the wild card?
3. Let me see.
So you've got San Francisco is probably going to. I mean, with the Rams sliding, San Francisco. I'd say the wild cards. Minnesota's in very good contention for a wild card.
Packers are in contention.
Well, the Packers will win their division probably.
Yeah, Niners and Rams. I'm just talking about playoff teams in general. I think the Eagles and Cowboys will both be playoff teams. So there's at least one wild card spot right there.
And then Minnesota's going to be a wild card. There's 2.
Or Packers. Yeah, so one of those 2. Right. There's another spot. NFC South is down.
That's the thing.
Saints aren't very good. Falcons aren't very good. Panthers are awful.
Yeah.
And then in the NFC West, who knows? I mean, I don't think Seattle's good. But
in crunching the numbers, I'll say yes. In crunching, although it's going to be tough for them in that division to stockpile wins.
I'm going to say bowl bleep, but even if the Giants went 9-8, that's a huge step in the right direction for that franchise. They've been so bad. I don't know if people realize how bad the Giants have been the last 10 years. They've been awful. Statement 3, Carson Wentz will have a new team next year. Bite or bowl bleep. No dead money after 2023.
I mean, is he willing to play as a backup?
See, I think he can still probably be a starter.
Where?
Somebody else will. He is a league average starting quarterback, Jake. So those guys always get jobs, right?
You're probably right. I mean, I could see who's a team that's Carolina giving him a shot. Somebody like that.
We'll see what happens. I mean, I don't want to speak too soon because the Colts still have to play the Commanders, and Irsay does not want them to lose that game.
Can you imagine if they lose that game?
Ugh. But I think that what's happened so far, even with Matt Ryan struggling, at least underlines the point that if somebody's not your guy, you've got to move on, even if the next guy is just as bad or even worse.
Can you imagine if the Colts do go out and let's say the Colts lose one of their 2 division games coming up, and then Washington is here, and they know that a loss basically eliminates them, and they lose to Carson Wentz.
And Wentz throws 4 tuds.
Say he goes 21 for 30 for 325 and 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, 3 tuds, 4 tuds. I mean, that would be...
Nobody says tuds.
That'd be awful. He's just out there just throwing tuds all over you.
Just touchdowns.
I mean, Carson Wentz dropping tud bombs all over his
touchdowns,
former team. That'd be rough. With every tud bomb, Irsay'd be up there in the owner's box just dying. Tud bomb after tud bomb.
October 22nd, we will be at Ball State, right there?
That's right. Yep. Can't wait for that live remote. Also, everything that we've got going on at QuarionSchultz.com.
We want to thank again Luminati's for having us out before the Thursday night game against Denver. It was fabulous. Don't forget the white pie. Their pizza is out, and it is spectacular. You should go to the brought up location at 6302 North Ferguson in order to enjoy their indoor and outdoor dining, which is great, or you can always pick up at the other locations.
Thanks to all our great sponsors, Lou Malnati's, Bailey and Wood Financial Group, Ball State Athletics, Hoagies and Hops, Chateau Kitchens, Love Heating and Cooling, WGU Indiana.
Did you mention Bailey and Wood?
I did.
Okay.
And everybody for being a part of Corey and Schultz. We will see you next time here on the show, episode 107. Have a great week, guys. Bye.